Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we are unpacking the incredibly dense, monster-filled saga of Geralt of Rivia across the entire Witcher game trilogy. You know, beneath all the silver swords and political backstabbing, there's this deeply human story just waiting to be uncovered.
Think about it. How exactly does a sterile, mutated outcast end up building the most powerful family on the continent? Well, because beneath the warring empires and the relentless monster hunting, this whole epic is really a story about a desperate fight to protect a found family. It's about how three broken, isolated individuals came together to, quite literally, save the universe.
So, here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to hit monsters and mutations, the found family, the Salamandra threat, chaos and kingslayers, the wild hunt, and finally, facing the white frost.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Monsters and Mutations.
To really understand Geralt, we have to talk about the conjunction of the spheres. This was the massive cosmic accident that completely defined this universe. Basically, ancient interdimensional monoliths shattered, merging multiple worlds together. And the result? It permanently stranded soft, vulnerable humans right at the absolute bottom of a magical food chain in the Elven lands. So for humanity to survive, they needed a drastic evolutionary leap.
And that leap? That was the notoriously brutal trial of the grasses. First, you select a human child. Then, administer highly toxic mutagenic potions. The child endures agonizing mutations, and if they survive, which most don't, they emerge as a superhuman monster slayer. But here is the tragic cost of this survival tactic, and honestly, the catalyst for our entire story. These mutations leave Witchers completely, 100% sterile.
Which brings us to Section 2, the found family.
Enter Yennefer of Vengerberg. She's a brilliant, incredibly powerful sorceress who, much like Geralt, sacrificed her ability to have children in exchange for her magical power. Now, their relationship has always been famously explosive, but as the lore points out, they share this deep understanding and a magnetic connection. They're both sharing loneliness, independence, and a desperate, desperate longing for the experience of love that biology just straight up denied them.
But that seemingly impossible wish was actually answered by something called the Law of Surprise. This is an ancient custom demanding that which you already have but do not know. So when Geralt casually invoked this custom after saving a man named Duny, he had absolutely zero idea that Duny's royal bride was secretly pregnant. That one fateful invocation magically bound Geralt's destiny to an orphaned princess named Ciri. It literally gave him and Yennefer the daughter they always wanted.
Of course, raising any child is tough, right? But raising a living, breathing, interdimensional weapon, that is a whole different story. Ciri possesses ancient elder blood, which makes her an incredibly powerful magical source. And because of that, she is relentlessly hunted. We're talking hunted by Emhar, the Nilfgaardian emperor, who also happens to be her secret biological father, the manipulative lodge of sorceresses, and most terrifyingly of all, the interdimensional wild hunt.
Okay, moving right along to Section 3, the Salamandra threat. Let's quickly trace the timeline leading right up to the very first game. In the past, Geralt and Yennefer actually die in a lethal riot. Ciri, using her immense power, teleports them to a safe island before going into hiding. But the Wild Hunt tracks them down and kidnaps Yennefer to use as bait for Ciri. What does Geralt do? He tracks them down and literally trades his own soul for Yennefer's freedom. Now, he does eventually escape, which is where Game 1 starts, but the trauma gives him total amnesia. He completely forgets Yennefer. He forgets Ciri. He completely forgets his family.
So, waking up with this total amnesia, Geralt actually romances the sorceress Triss Merigold. But there's really no time to settle down, because almost immediately, Kaer Morhen is raided by a ruthless group of bandits called the Salamandran, and they steal the highly guarded, precious mutagens used to create Witchers.
And this uncovers a massive, twisted conspiracy. See, the Salamander bandits were just stealing the mutagens to experiment, but they were secretly being funded by the Grand Master of the Flaming Rose. Why? Because the Grand Master was having these maddening visions of the White Frost, a prophesied world-ending apocalypse. He actually funded the theft so he could build an army of superhuman mutant knights just to survive it. Ultimately, Geralt has to step in and put a stop to this zealot and his mutant army.
Next up is Section 4, Chaos and Kingslayers.
So, rolling right into The Witcher 2, a whole new conspiracy unfolds. A rogue witcher named Letha the Viper starts systematically assassinating northern kings. And poor Geralt is just in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting framed for the murder of King Foltest. While working to clear his name, Geralt discovers that Nilfgaard is actually using all of this bloody chaos to launch a massive, devastating invasion of the north.
But here's the kicker. Over the course of clearing his name, Geralt's amnesia finally breaks. His memories of Yennefer and Ciri come rushing back. So we have to ask the obvious question. With his name cleared and his memories of his family fully restored, where would the White Wolf go next?
That brings us straight into Section 5, the Wild Hunt.
At the start of The Witcher 3, Yennefer finally contacts Geralt with a singular goal. They need to find Ciri. Together, they tirelessly track her across the war-torn swamps of Velen, the bustling streets of Novigrad, and the frozen islands of Skellige. Finally, after a truly grueling journey, Ciri is located on the mystical Isle of Mists.
But the moment Ciri leaves that magical hiding spot, the hunt descends. This leads to the massive Battle of Kaer Morhen, which unfortunately ends in absolute tragedy. Geralt's mentor and father figure Vesemir is killed in the fight. Watching him die triggers Ciri's uncontrolled, massively destructive magical grief, which unleashes so much power it forces the hunt to retreat.
It's fascinating to look at the two incredibly powerful elves trying to pull Ciri's strings here. On one side, you have Avalak, an ANL elf, who is genuinely trying to train Ciri to control her immense, world-breaking power. But on the other side, you have King Eredin, the terrifying leader of the Wild Hunt. He doesn't want to teach her, he just wants to violently exploit her power so he can conquer other worlds.
And that sets the stage for our explosive finale in Section 6, Facing the White Frost.
In the final showdown, Geralt manages to corner and brutally execute King Eredin. But the victory is incredibly short-lived because that prophesied apocalyptic event, the White Frost, begins tearing into their world. So, Ciri bravely steps through a portal to confront it head-on. And here's the most beautiful part of this entire saga. It isn't just her magic that saves her. To survive the freezing oblivion, she relies entirely on the warm, loving memories of her found family.
Which leads us to a truly perfect epilogue. Geralt meets with the Nilfgaardian Emperor and just straight up lies to his face, telling him that Ciri died saving the world. Why? To protect her. Geralt then travels to an inn and secretly gives his daughter a beautifully crafted silver sword. She's finally free to live her life not as a hunted royal weapon, but on her own terms as a fellow Witcher.
And that leaves us with one final, lingering thought. There's an old in-universe saying that a Witcher never dies in his bed. They always die on the path. But with his family finally safe, can the White Wolf ever truly retire? After stopping apocalyptic threats and fiercely protecting the people he chose to love, maybe he actually can. The real magic here wasn't the spells or the mutations, it was the lengths a parent will go to for their child. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.